I'm also a former teacher in the Bibb County and Houston County school systems. So I've had a lot of experience dealing with kids and drugs and alcohol, just in the educational setting as well as in the counseling setting. I work for the Children and Adolescent Department at River Edge on Baconsfield, which is behind the McDonald's in the Baconsfield area. And I work with individuals and families, and I also am the group leader for the substance abuse group. And in my substance abuse group, I have about 10 youth, ages 13 to 17, who are mandated by Bibb County Juvenile Court to come to group. The remaining kids are mandated through DJJ, or their doctor referred them, and I have one client who is there by choice. And the reason why he is there by choice is because he's 17, he'll be 18 in June, and he has decided, I really want to go in the military, and my history of alcohol and marijuana possession is keeping me from doing what I want to do. Because he has realized that the branch of the military he wants to go into will look at sealed records. So I'm not sure if you are aware of that. There are, depending on what branch of the military somebody wants to go into, you can go regular enlisted, like regular Army enlisted, but if you want to be more of an elite service, like a SEAL or a Ranger or a Marine, they look at your past history, including sealed records. So that's a couple of things to keep in mind. The rest of the kids I work with, like I said, they're ages 13 to 17. They're all in there for marijuana. That's their first drug of choice. So when you mentioned that there's other drugs at play, I wanted to say yes, definitely. Because whereas when I was in high school in the 80s, alcohol was whatever you could get, no matter how you get it. If it was Boone's Hill or Mad Dog or a wine cooler or whatever, that's what we drank. The other drugs, they just weren't on our radar. Well, now the drug of choice is weed, and whatever they can do, and they supplement it with alcohol and pills. So once they get into a drug, that's why they're saying tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana are gateway drugs, because it really is. They lead to the next thing. Because eventually, what you're drinking, smoking, or doing isn't going to get you the same high, so you move to the next level up. One of the statistics that I've had, and I tell the students, is 10 out of 11 people can drink or smoke marijuana at an experimental stage. Yeah. There's a lot of people who've experimented. We know, maybe you are one of them. You drank a little in high school and college, maybe you smoked a little pot, and well, yeah, it was fun while you did it, but you grew up, you went and got a job, you went to college, you did what you need to do to be an adult, and you were done with that. It's that 11th person that develops a problem with it. When you look at that 11th person, you need to look back at what is the family history. You know, is there a history of mental illness? So like bipolar, schizophrenia, is there an addiction history in your family? And that's going to influence whether or not they continue to have a problem. Another huge thing that determines whether or not these are the children who get into legal and physical and health issues is, what are they seeing at home? What is being modeled at home? And so with that, I'm going to bring you into a couple of things that I found. Distillers in America have a coalition. It is called the Century Council. And they did a study on the drinking culture of adolescents and teenagers in America. And these are the things they found. You're not going to be surprised. First thing they found is getting together on a social basis to drink is no big deal. They don't think there's anything wrong with it because, well, they see mom and dad drinking. And sometimes mom and dad go through a fifth of whatever in a weekend. Well, they still have a job, they're still paying their bills, so if they don't have a problem, why am I going to have one? It kind of goes back to the developing brain. It goes back into the fact that there's a fallacy that teens have, that we all have, that if you take any kind of development class, they say the infallibility complex. It's not going to happen to me, I'm invincible. It'll happen to somebody else. I know when to stop. Yeah, as they're puking in a book. bush, or whatever their consequence is. Second thing, it's easy to get alcohol. Either you know somebody who will go buy it for you. I remember when I was in high school, a friend of mine's older brother who graduated about 5 years ago, he was our source. We'd just give him a 20 and he would come back with whatever. I also know of some kids who work at Kroger who are doing the stocking, and they would just accidentally leave a case of whatever it is that they were stocking on the back pallet, and then somebody makes a drive-by, picks it up, and keeps going. They don't think about the consequences, because it's not stealing, they found it. They will drink whatever it is that they can get. So in the times when you can't get a fifth of vodka or whatever it is, stealing it from mom's cabinet or getting somebody's uncle to buy it for you, they will drink 2 or 3 bottles of Delsum. They will mix the Delsum or the Robitussin with Sprite to get the same effect.
What is Delsum?
A cough syrup.
Cough syrup.
Okay.
Yeah. So, these are the things that they're doing. We've heard of stories of military men who are overseas in dry countries and their wives sending them bottles of Listerine. Well, they have learned these tricks as well. If they can't get the alcohol, they'll get the alcohol content from the Listerine or the NyQuil, the Robitussin or the Delsum, or they'll swipe it from wherever they can. They'll drink whatever. And that's what the Distillers of America said.
Oh, as in Saudi Arabia during the first Persian Gulf War, they were hauling in bags, truckloads of sugar and making steels in country.
Huh.
Yeah, they'll find a way if they want to.
Sugar and yeast in there.
Yeah. We were cooking.
Another thing that this study found, this is no real big surprise, teenagers think that the drug education programs in schools are a joke. Because what they're saying in these programs is different than what they're seeing in their own experience. Because all we're doing is showing the negative, negative, negative. And I struggle with that because that's what I'm doing in group. I'm showing what the negative is. And this is how I explain it away. Well, you already know what the positive is. That's how we got you here. You know how good the high is. So why do I need to reiterate how good the high is and what kind of trouble it will get you into? Because you don't know what the consequences are. You're not thinking about your actions and your responsibility against the future. Those are a couple of things they came up with. They also said, my parents don't know how to talk to me. Or when they talk to me, they're telling me things based on when they were kids, they're not listening to what I'm saying. And on the flip side, if they aren't talking, they're assuming that these drug education programs in the school system, which basically all the schools are allowed to do is say, no, don't do it. It's kind of like the sex ed conversations. No, you really shouldn't do it. They're not talking about how to say no. They're not talking about the things that are going on to cause them to drink and drug as their choice. Parents are also assuming that the ad campaigns are doing all the work so they don't need to say anything, which is a misconception. Yeah, some of them are working, but you still need to say something. Don't assume that just because your kid sees the billboard that says don't drink and drive, or will meth change how the way I look, don't assume that's answering all the questions. You need to sit down and talk to your kid about what the questions are and what the attraction is. So like I said, the council didn't tell us anything we didn't know. It just basically told us what's been happening and reiterating the fact that what we're doing isn't working and we need to work on that a little bit more. Here are some statistics. 41% of all adolescents have their first drink by the age of 14. 14. That's a few years old, that stat is. Majority of boys, 11. Girls, 13. And I'm letting you know that the numbers, the group of kids that are coming in, because I'm not just doing the group where they're mandated by somebody telling them, you've got a problem, you've got to address this. I've got a bunch of other kids coming in doing individual counseling with me at age 12, 13 and 14, boys and girls, black and white, who were drinking and doing marijuana. Kinda makes you think.
Can I ask you a question? These people that are mandated for your group, how do they get there? Do they get arrested or is the court?
They got in trouble legally for something.
Okay.
Typically, it's possession of marijuana, intent to distribute. Sometimes it's possession of alcohol, but typically it's marijuana. A few of them were caught and charged with burglary, and when they went into the court system, they came up positive for marijuana, and so the judge said, okay, you're doing the pot, or you're breaking into the houses to get the money to do the pot. So it's lower level crimes. That's why the majority of my group is 13, 14, 15.
Mhm.
Because if they do anything above that, they're not eligible for the group. Because it's really more of a drug ed class with some counseling in it. Because we do some counseling, but a lot of it is, this is what happens when you do this. So they have some sort of history.
Okay.
And they've all tested positive for something.
Where are these younger ones, the 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, where are they actually drinking and smoking?
Home, school, and in the community. I've had one who brought vodka in a water bottle like that one and was drinking it in the middle of a assembly and fell on the floor, and that's how they found out. Another one got it from their older brother, the 17-year-old brother who was dating a 24-year-old girl. Several of them take it from mom and dad's cabinet because either it's just in the cabinet and nobody monitors it, so that nobody notices it when it goes down, and then they fill it back up with some water to dilute it. Or there's so much use in the home itself that nobody notices when something goes missing. That's typically where it is.
Yeah, I just like to make one comment. One of the things, when I was in law enforcement, I specifically worked in juvenile services, and all the kids I dealt with was 11-year-old to 21-year-old. And at the time, my children were small, and I learned a great lesson from working with youth doing juvenile services. And one of the things that you mentioned is and I had mentioned earlier about the fact that, they really only hear or willing to listen to half of what you're saying when you're stolen or trying to, tell them why not to do something. But because, like you said, they don't think it's about them. They think it's about somebody else, and they can make it and do it.
Yeah. And to piggyback off what you said, one of the things we do in the drug group is it's an evidence-based curriculum, which means that they have to do something to show that they're working the program.
Mm-hmm.
And we do the 7 challenges, which is a program that is designed to encourage them to make responsible decisions. And in step 1, it talks about, who do you trust to talk to, who is it that you're going to admit to talk to, and all these things. And it specifically targets adults. It's why do you not talk to the adults that you know about these things? And it says, because they're always yelling at me. I can't tell you how many times I've read, all they do is yell at me, they're not listening to what I have to say. And the next question is what can they do differently? And the difference is they can actually listen to me and not yell at me and not put me on punishment. Which is, I struggle with that because you did something wrong. Oftentimes we have to have a consequence with what you've done wrong. And if we don't do a punishment or a consequence at one point, when are we making it okay to do what you did, to continue the same behavior? But the number one thing is you're not listening to me when I'm actually trying to talk. Another statistics, some back, like you said, the younger you are, the more likely. If you start drinking before the age of 15, you are 5 times more likely to have an addiction problem than a 20-year-old who started drinking. That's one interesting concept. early drinking is associated with alcohol-related violence, and that's no matter what age you start. If you start drinking as a preteen adolescent, you're typically going to have violence-related problems throughout your life. See, 3 million teenagers are out and out alcoholics. They are functioning. I had 2 weeks ago, one of my clients in group came to group with a blood alcohol level of 0.350. If you don't
Showed up
know,
to group with that?
it is illegal to drive at 0.08. Now, to let you know how functioning this kid was, I couldn't tell a difference in his behavior except for he was a little talkative.
Wow.
He was standing up, he was
I'd be passed out.
participating, yeah. And if you look at the statistics at a 0.35, you should be a little blacked out, passed out, having trouble walking. And I couldn't tell. It wasn't until the next day when I got that urine result back and saw that he had that much alcohol in his system, I almost
He
fell
wasn't
out.
slurring his words?
No.
Wow.
Sometimes give them nerves. I mean, I can honestly say that as a teenager, my nerves half the time was in the bottle. You know, I became this social person,
Right.
but it was all in a bottle. And I had to learn how to do it without the bottle.
So the next week, you could better believe I made particular attention to pay attention to him because he had tested so high the week before. So I'm watching him this week. That week he came positive for a 0.18. Still, no difference. Wow.
That's still double the legal limit, over double the legal limit.
Is he driving himself to group?
No, thank
Yeah, I'm
goodness.
not saying that.
He's-
What point do you
And if
step
he's
in
showing
and
up
say,
that
okay, I
drunk
don't
to
think you can be
group,
driving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
He's
thing
showing
is
up
that-
drunk to group, what about?
Do you tell his
during the
parents?
Oh yeah.
party?
Okay, I didn't know if it's, since
Because
it was
exact-
therapy, you couldn't even.
Well,
Right.
technically, he's under the age of 18. So that's where we get a little, we've got that hinky situation here. Legally, I can talk to mom and dad, but technically, he's 13, over the age of 13 and sort of over the age of consent. Like, he could agree to an AIDS test. He can sign for his own treatment plans, but he's not an adult. But I also tell them when we start group, there are certain exceptions to everything. If you start talking about killing yourself, other people, elderly children, or animals, I'm going to get you some help. If you start talking about risky behavior, you're doing things that I think are risky, and you refuse to pull your mom or your dad in, I am going to tell. So I tell them that up front. And sometimes it's, they do these things just to see if I will follow through with what I say. But yeah, at that point, I am going to follow my ethical rules on that one. And if I think he's in danger, I'm going to say something. So it is a gray area. So what are some of the things that you can look at? Because when you're looking at teenagers, how much of it is it hormone related and normal teenage rebellion and do I have to? And how much is it that
It's not like-
something's wrong and they're drinking and they're drugging? Yeah, I was a snot. I was a rebellious little teen, and I feel bad for my mom now.
I do too. Especially when she had two of us, and
Yeah.
it was a nightmare.
And it took me a while to figure that one out. And it'll take them a little while to figure it out. But some of us were just hormonal, and some of us were trying to be independent and just felt bound by the chains. So these are some things that you need to look at as a parent or a professional who is around a child or a teenager. First thing you need to look at is what's going on with you and your family. Number one reason, although the kids won't admit this, there's something going on. When you look at the similarities of adult alcoholics with children, they had something going on. Either they were abused, there's a death in a family, there's a divorce going on, there's mental health issues, maybe mom or dad is an alcoholic, they're trying to deal with all these issues. What's going on? 2, have they always been this way to this extent? Rotten teens tend to have been rotten children. You know, so is this a personality thing that has grown with it, more of a conduct or oppositional defiance disorder? Is this a continuum? Have their friends changed? Are they still hanging out with the same group of friends that they hung out with in elementary school, middle school, and high school? Or now all they're hanging out with kids who look like thugs? Or kids who look like they're strung out? There's probably something going on there. Another thing to look at is who's being affected by your child's behavior. I had one client who came in and said, my child, she's just really off the chain because she said no to mom. And I guess I was so used to having such bad children come into my office.
The mom said that to you?
Yeah, the mom said my
Because
child.
her child said no, that she's off the train.
Yeah.
My child be dead.
I know that's right.
Well, I'm used
No,
to.
my child be dead in her, for that mom's eyes. I wouldn't kill my child. My child says no like 10 times a day.
Exactly. So who's
He's like,
being
no, I'm not
affected?
doing that. I don't feel like it. I'm like,
What is your expectation level? You know, this particular parent, I want to say you have a great child. I don't know why you're in counseling. But she wanted counseling for her disrespect. Okay, so we'll do that. You know, who is being bothered? Is it disrupting the whole family? You know, is the whole family in chaos, in an uproar? Is everybody else running to their rooms to get away from your child? You know, okay, and if that's a change in behavior, that's something you need to look at. I think I'm going over. Is that
You still got another minute.
okay? Okay.
You're good.
Well, I did do a couple of things. I printed out a list of things to look for. I don't know if anybody wants it. But it's done by categories. You know, what to look for. Behavior change. Changes in your personal habits. Changes in health issues. Oops. Did I?
What parents can do.
Oh, sorry. Let me get the next one. Well, I guess I'm out of that one. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Basically, what you're looking at is key things here. Where there used to be a calm child and now they're punching walls. Has their clothing changed? Are they now all of a sudden popping gum? Are they wearing clothing that they can hide things in? Do they come in from going out and go immediately change their clothes into something else to get rid of the smell of whatever it is that they were wearing? Yeah, they want to get rid of that reefer smell. Because they think, they don't realize it still clings to your hair.
It clings.
Are they brushing their teeth more? Using mouthwash? You know, is there a huge change in these kinds of habits? Are their eyes always red? Are they always carrying around eye drops to camouflage their red eyes? Is there a change in their, coughing, phlegming? Other things you can look for is, have their grades dropped? You know, they're not going to want to do anything. They're always sleeping in class, or they're having trouble getting up. So this is a list of things to look for. And then the number one thing I would say as a parent or a professional is you need to know your kids' friends. I mean, actually sit down and have conversations with them. Have them over at your house, because at least they're at your house and not somewhere else. And have conversations with your kid. And when you have these conversations, try not to yell, try not to scold, try to actually listen to what they're saying. Maybe you need to set up a safe room parameter area, okay? You have asylum for the next half hour to tell me whatever it is you need to tell me. And I'm not gonna judge you. But that's gonna have to be something as a parent you're gonna have to need to decide. Because some of the things they might tell you will shock you, upset you, and make you angry. And you wanna lock them up in their room. That's not gonna help the problems. They need to feel that you're listening to them and that they have somebody that they can talk to.
That's the good part about being a grandparent. About being a grandparent, you already then lost it with your children, so you started listening to everything that your grandchildren say. And the grandchildren will talk forever to grandparents if they love them and they trust them. My grandchildren tell me too much.
And yeah, I know when I was teaching high school, some of the things those kids would tell me, I'm like, okay, you do know I'm a mandated reporter, right? You do realize that, at some point in time, I'm gonna have to talk to your parents about what you're saying. What I try to go to from now is, you need to be able to talk to me so that I can help you make better decisions. And if you like, here's a list of things parents can do and a pamphlet for concerned parents. I'll just put right here.
Thank you.
I think we got really good information, especially as a group of people that are about to be working on grants and figuring out the best way to deal with this problem. It gave us a lot of stuff to think about, and a lot of the stuff that we will be looking at when we do these surveys and the strategic plan, and we're gonna be saying, okay, let's look at the problems and then some of these solutions like social norms, like, you know, a lot of times the kids that do the drinking and act crazy get all the attention, not the 8 other kids who don't do the drinking. So letting kids know, hey, most kids actually don't behave like that. It's that 1 out of 11 that has that, you know, it's a genetic thing too. Your friends go out and drink, but the one guy, he takes it to a whole other level. He's acting super silly. He's the guy who's gonna be the alcoholic, who's gonna have a long-term problem. If you don't know that until you start drinking with all your friends. So everybody kind of does see themselves as invincible, but yeah, I want to thank all of our speakers for coming out. Future Sheriff Chief Davis and Ms. Wilson and Mr. Miley, and I think we got some good information. We can take it back to our groups and something to think about as we move forward with our GASPS grant and think about the best way to help serve our kids. And you know, it is an uphill battle, and all we can do is, you know, try to do the right thing, get the message out there in the smartest way we know how, based on the data. And just want to thank everybody for coming out. And I wish there's more people here. I don't know if it's spring break. Sometimes you can get more or less, but I think that's good information. And
Thanks.
I see you.